In 1492, Christopher Columbus discovered an island in the New World and named it Hispaniola. Europeans liked everything about the new land: the climate, nature, and peaceful population. But the natives died out soon enough. The aliens brought smallpox with them, to which the Indians had no immunity. The island was depopulated. Then the empty piece of land attracted settlers because of the climate, which allowed several harvests a year, and the ideal conditions for growing sugarcane. However, there was not enough time and energy for serious colonization. As a result, French buccaneers ruled over a good half of Hispaniola. Attempts to drive them to Tortuga brought only temporary results. Therefore, by the end of the 17th century, the Spanish had to recognize that half of the island belonged to the French. Around the same time, the island began to import labor slaves, supplied in abundance from the African continent. At the same time, the sugar industry began to develop. Avalanche like the cane grown on the island was processed here. That is why in the 18th century, the region turned out to be the leading in the sugar industry. Almost 40% of the world's sugar was produced here. Meanwhile, conditions allowed to produce more, but slaves were needed. The fact is that the living conditions of slaves were far from ideal. Hard work, meager food, and lack of medical care led to the fact that in an average year, at least 3% of slaves died. In other years 5%. That is, the turnover of personnel could not always be compensated by constant supplies of fresh ebony. By the end of the 18th century, Hispaniola, then called Saint Domingo, was home to about 2,000 wealthy Frenchmen, who owned the main resources, and 38,000 smaller planters. There were about 28,000 more free mulattoes, some of whom were themselves owners of land and slaves, and about 4,000 black vacationers who, for one reason or another, had been granted personal freedom. This handful of free people accounted for over 500,000 slaves, half of all that was available in the Caribbean at all. The slaves did not like their lot at all. They hated both whites and free-colored people. The mulattoes had no qualms about exploiting their own kind, but they sulked at the whites because they were superior in rights and freedoms to the descendants of mixed marriages. So everyone hated each other and didn't hide much. However, such a life could have lasted indefinitely, but there was a revolution in France which controlled most of Saint Domingo. Vincent Auger, a mulatto planter, went to see the fruits of the new life. It is difficult to say what was going on in the soul of this medium-sized slaveholder, but having familiarized himself with the new laws developed in the metropolis, he interpreted them in a very peculiar way. Since liberty, equality, and fraternity, mulattoes and whites are equal in all things. And with this idea, he rushed to his homeland, where he began to broadcast the thesis of equality at every turn. What the whites didn't like was that they preferred a position of reaction. In the end, Auger managed to issue a verbal ultimatum to the governor of the island, demanding that the mulattoes be given the right to vote. The governor refused. Auger was so offended that he revolted, using slaves from his own plantations as the main rebels. But it did not last long. He was soon caught, convicted, and executed in 1791. But the ideas of enlightenment managed to charm the usually amorphous mass of mulattoes, and in August, the rebellion broke out with renewed vigor, but already as a general, not localized. In 2 months, 4,000 whites were killed, and 280 plantations destroyed, and the world noticed a spike in the price of sugar. Quite quickly, François Dominique Toussaint Louverture became the leader of the rebels. He was a local black man who had recently gained his freedom. It is noteworthy that before going to fight for freedom, he ensured the evacuation of his former master and his family. Then France realized that mulattoes should be given the same rights as whites, and with this news, they sent General Etienne Laveaux to the island. He met with Louverture and persuaded him to take the side of the metropolis, giving the rebel leader the rank of brigadier general. Recruitment of an ally happens in time, because Spain and England decide that it would be nice to pocket the ownerless good thing that they had a permanent war with France at that moment, but they underestimated the locals. and for nothing, because Louverture in 1795 beat Spain, and in 1798 England. But in France itself, power and moods continued to change. So, as a result, Gabriel Edouville from Paris stepped onto the shores of San Domingo, declaring that it would be good to restore slavery. The current moment demands it. The economy is in danger, and to make it more convincing, he pits mulattoes against Negroes and Negroes against mulattoes. In 1799, Edouville's efforts caused the mulattoes to revolt. They want to become slave owners again. So Louverture, with pressure, persuades the troublemaker to get back to Paris for his own safety, and crushes the mulatto rebellion. True, not at once. It took until 1800. After that, he unites the lands and seizes the Spanish part of the island in 1801. Then he bargained for autonomy for his homeland from the metropolis, confirmed the complete abolition of slavery, and became governor for life. But then Bonaparte makes a mess of things. He refuses to recognize all the previous decrees and laws and reaffirms slavery. As a result, there is a general uproar, and an expeditionary corps under the command of his son-in-law has to be sent to the island. The son-in-law wins and takes Louverture prisoner. He, however, surrenders on the condition that slavery will not be restored. The prisoner is sent to France, where he dies a year later of pneumonia. But while the island is again fully controlled by France, Bonaparte re-establishes slavery on it, which does not last long. An epidemic of yellow fever breaks out, from which the expeditionary corps dies out almost in its entirety, headed by the commander. There is no one left to enforce the law. The slaves rise again, and crush the remnants of the French. Both sides become increasingly radicalized. The rebels are aided by the British, at that moment again at war with a pro-Lithuanian neighbor. They enforce a naval blockade of the region, and reinforcements from France are cut off. The west of the island goes under the wing of England, the east remains under the French. Only in 1803, the former general of Louverture, who had safely betrayed him, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, raises a rebellion which ends in a massacre of the white population. A handful of captured Poles and German colonists miraculously survive. Dessalines proclaims himself Tsar Jacques I and returns the island to its old Indian name Haiti, and promises the population a constitution and a good life. The constitution appears, but the good life does not come. Poverty and discontent grow. Dessalines tries to reclaim the west of the island, but is defeated and killed by his own in a court conspiracy. Then the free part of Haiti is divided into two independent states, and on the French side, in 1808, a new anti-French rebellion is started and won. Again, a series of not entirely voluntary deaths among the leadership of this Negro Republic, and the two western parts of Haiti are united, but they lose the east. It becomes Spanish. The Republic of Haiti takes offense at this and hatches evil plans, which are realized in 1822. Again, the whole island becomes a single territory of a single state, and again, it happens by force. Unity lasts 22 years. In 1844, an anti-Haitian uprising breaks out. As a result, Haiti and Dominica appear on the world map. The borders were never moved again. However, the first independent states in Latin America did not become richer, and today they are considered not quite prosperous. At the same time, they remain in the history books as the first regions where the slave revolt was successful. If you liked the video, then don't forget to put a like and subscribe to the channel. There will be a lot of interesting, shocking, and exciting things ahead.